What's going on YouTube? It's your man Christian back at it again, and today we're going to be getting just a little bit more bold with it. That's right guys, we're going to be dipping our toes into the world of After Effects today, and I know that that can sound a little bit scary on the surface, but I promise you that it's really not that bad once you get into it. We're going to be looking at a super basic intro to motion graphics, and I'm going to teach you how to create that little Instagram title that you saw in my last video right here. It's honestly super easy and it's very powerful. It's a very good tool to have in your box. So after this tutorial, not only will you end up with a super cool Instagram title that you can use for all of your videos or Twitter or whatever you decide to make, my ultimate goal with this is to kind of teach you the fundamentals that you can apply to making more titles so that you can make one for Instagram, Twitter, your YouTube channel, or whatever the case may be. So without further ado guys, let's lock in and hop into After Effects, sit back and relax with your favorite snack, and let's learn some. Alright guys, we are in After Effects. We have it all fired up. First thing we're going to do is click New Composition, and I'm going to name this IG Title. And you can make it whatever size that you want. For the sake of keeping it super simple, I'm going to keep it 1920 by 1080. As a stylistic choice, I always like to keep it at 23.976. You can make it whatever you wish. And I'm going to keep the background layer as black. That's not going to matter in the long run. In my duration, I'm going to keep it 10 seconds to be safe. That's probably too long, but just for the sake of keeping it simple, 10 seconds. We're going to lock in, boom. So now what we're going to do is import our logo or whatever other elements that you want. So I'm going to come over here. I have it simple in my documents folder to spare you the horrors of my file management. So we're going to pull it into our composition right here. And there we go. We have our Instagram logo, and we're going to pull that down onto the timeline area now. Boom, there we go. Alright, so depending on the size of the file you downloaded, it might be too big or too small. So there's two ways you can change that. You can click this drop down arrow and another one and then go to scale, but that's the stupid boring way. We like fast shortcuts here, so we're going to click S for scale. And then we're just going to move that on down where we see fit. I think about 20 is going to be a good starting point. And then to move it over, you can either move it freely with the pointer. I'm going to click Command Z to undo that, or we can do another shortcut, P for position, and this first value right here is going to move it left and right, the x-axis, and that 540 value is going to move it up and down on the y-axis. So I've got that locked in where I think it's going to be good. So now we're going to insert our text. We're going to come over here to our text tool, and I'm going to type out my Instagram name. You can type out whatever you want. I'm going to type out Shot by Eli, which you should definitely follow since I'm dropping all this free knowledge. We're going to type out Shot by Eli. And if you're a complete noob to text and design in general, then there's a lot of options that you have when it comes to text. I like Arial Black. You can change your font right here and your font size and your line spacing and all of that. To keep it simple though, I like to squish it a little bit. This is what it looks like at 100. That's the regular font. You can come down to 50, make it super pancakey looking. I'm going to keep it at 90. So now again, we're going to come down to scale, click S, and we're going to scale this up. I think it looks good right about here. And I'm just going to freely move this one with my pointer. It's this tool up here. You can also click V on your keyboard to get to it. And I'm just going to center this up with this logo, have it nestled up right in there. Alright guys, so we have officially laid the foundation for what is to come. And a lot of people think this is the scary part. I look at it as the fun part. There's really not much to it. Just hang in there and you're going to learn a lot of really cool basics. Alright, so first things first, we're going to left click in here and go to New Solid. And I'm going to name this IG Mask. IG standing for Instagram. Click OK. Doesn't really matter what color it is. I'm going to leave it black to keep it simple. Alright, so before you panic and think you just lost all of your work, it's just a black layer over your current work. So all we're going to do is disable the visibility on it by clicking this eyeball right here. And now what we need to do is come up here and grab our square tool with the mask logo still selected to create a mask. So we're going to pull the square, just make a nice little uniform kind of square over our logo. Alright, now the next step is to make the logo an alpha matte. So the logo layer actually needs to be under the mask layer. So I'm going to move my logo up in between to put it right under that mask layer. And we're just going to come over here and go to alpha matte IG mask. And if you don't see this right away, you might be in the other mode, which is right here. We'll get into that a little bit later. But right now we need it in the other one so that we can apply that alpha matte to the IG mask layer. And what this is going to do, if we click P, I already have it selected, and we move up and down or left and right, you'll see that the mask blocks out whatever element we just drew it over. So what we're going to do now with our logo layer selected, and we're going to click P to have our position open, we're going to click the stopwatch right here to set our first keyframe. It's going to be this little blue diamond right here. And now what we're going to do for this first one is move it up so that it's out of the way. We're going to move it up just to where it's outside, right there. And now we're going to come over several frames. This part's not really important right now. We'll be able to adjust it later. I'm going to come out right here maybe, and we don't have to click the stopwatch again. All we have to do is move it down right to where we think it's best. I think right here. All right, so let's watch that back and see what it's looking like. Boom, there we go. It's not too pretty yet, guys, but we have just made our first motion graphic element. Get excited. This is something really cool that not a lot of people know how to do. So you are in a select society of very talented individuals. Pat yourself on the back. All right, so it's looking good, but it's a bit slow, as you can see. So all we have to do to alter this is move it closer or farther. If you want it slower, move it farther. I want it to be faster, so I'm going to move it way closer. Let's see what this looks like. Still a little slow. Let's move it in. And more. All right, that's starting to take shape how I want. So the next part that we're going to do is really important. We have to click both of our keyframes. That's if you only have one selected, click Shift and click the other one, or you can drag over both of them just like this. And we're going to click F9. And all that does is you can also do left click, keyframe assistant, easy ease. And that's just going to make it to where it eases in a little bit more. So we're going to look at that now. Looks a little bit less linear, a little less robotic, gives it a little bit more character. But this next part that we're going to do is what's really going to make it pop. This is the exciting part. So we're going to select both of our keyframes again. And we're going to open the graph editor, this icon right here. So we're going to click it. And we see that we got this sharp hump right here. That's what the keyframe assistant did for us. So we're just going to zoom in a little bit, use this mountain icon right here, this little slider. We're going to zoom in to get a closer look. And we're going to click both of our points right here. And I want it to kind of have the effect where it comes in fast and slows down. Kind of like a nice little animation with some personality. So we're going to drag this one just a little bit. And then the secret is to drag this one out kind of far. So you got this kind of fast intro, slow outro. So I'm actually going to drag this a little closer. And let's see what that looks like. Boom. All right, guys, that looks really good. That's adding a lot of personality and character to it. I know I've said that like 5 times, but I'm very excited about this. It's just making it that next level that really kind of adds a personal touch to it, whereas, you know, just a logo coming in straight down is not that exciting. So here we go. And now that I see it, I actually want to slow it down a little bit, so I'm going to drag this out a bit here. See what it looks like now. I love that. That's about perfect. So we're going to watch that back one more time. Boom. All right, so we have our first element done, guys. We're halfway there. So now what we're going to do is repeat the process for the text. So we're going to go over to our text layer, click New, Solid, and I'm going to name this Text Mask. Keep all the settings the same. Same thing as last time, hide the visibility. With that layer selected, our square is already selected. Come over here and just draw a box over our text. And I actually want it to look like the text is kind of coming out of the logo. So what I'm going to do to achieve that is with the mask layer selected, I'm just going to use my arrow keys to kind of scoot this box over to where it's hugging the edge of that logo. You see what I'm talking about? All right, so now we have to make this an alpha matte as well. So I'm going to click the text layer, click right here, alpha matte text mask. Make sure that text mask is above the text layer. So we're going to click that. And now our next step, I want the text to come out about when this ends to be safe. So we're just going to keep it at that last keyframe right there. We're going to click P for position on our text layer and hit the stopwatch. And then we're going to move this first value on the x-axis and move it out of the way. And then we're going to come over a few frames, doesn't matter where right now, and we're just going to move it back in. There we go, guys. All right, we're almost done. So let's watch that back and see how it's looking. All right, I kind of want it to move a little faster, so I'm going to scoot this in a bit. And let's not forget, select both of them and click F9 for easy ease to give it that added bit of smoothness before we change it on the graph. All right, I'm kind of liking the way that looks right now. I want the text to come in a bit sooner. So all I'm going to do is select both of my keyframes and scoot them back. So now, there we go. We have a much kind of quicker effect. So I'm going to select both of these keyframes and come into our graph editor, and let's give it that same personality that we gave it the last time. I'm going to scoot this right here, and again scoot this one long ways. Scoot this one back a little bit more. All right, let's see what that's looking like. All right, guys, that's starting to look really good. Our effect is almost completely done. Let's watch that one more time. So the last thing that's going to be kind of like the cherry on top is going to be motion blur. So we're going to click our toggle switch modes, and we're going to click motion blur on all of our layers. I don't think you have to do it on the mask layers, but we're going to do it to be safe just because we love motion blur in this house. All right, guys, now let's watch it back now that it has the motion blur. This is arguably the most important part of this whole thing. It's going to add so much character to it. Let's watch it. Wow, there we go, guys. It looks super smooth, super buttery. Really liking how this is coming out. Let's watch it again. All right, and you can adjust your speed values. You can adjust whatever values that you want to alter it to your personal taste. So if you're watching yours back right now and kind of thinking, why am I not seeing motion blur? I have all of mine selected. You might not have the master one right here selected. And if you don't, the motion blur will still be present in your final product. It just won't be present when you're making your composition. So right here, if I play it back, I have all my motion blurs turned on, but not the master one. And if you want to trim the composition up so that you don't have all this leftover time, it might save you some render time if you make your composition shorter. So to change that, you come to composition, composition settings, and just change my time to, this is the seconds panel right here. Then it goes like minutes and hours, so on and so forth. So I go to 10 seconds. I'm gonna cut it down to like 6. So that I don't have so much hang time for my computer to render. I like to leave a little bit of a tail on mine sometimes so that if I want to fade the title out or whatever else, I have that extra time. All right, so now the final step is to render it. So we're going to come up to composition and add to render queue. All right, so we see it's down here. I'm going to drag mine up to make it a little bit bigger so that it's easier to see. So these are the simplest settings just to kind of get a good starting point. So we're going to go to output module. All right, so we're going to select QuickTime, and that's because it's a codec that allows transparency. So we're going to click QuickTime and go to RGB.alpha. And this is very important because it's not going to render that black background out with it. It's just going to be the white. It's basically like a PNG in video form. So you're going to be able to put this over anything without having to worry about keying the black background out. So it'll just be the white that you see. So we're going to click RGB plus alpha, OK, IG title, and we can save that wherever we want. I'm just going to save it as IG title and click save, and we're going to hit render. There are plenty of kind of presets out there if you're an Envato person or if you're like Premium Beat or something like that. There are a lot of these things that are pre-made, and I advocate for those. I use a lot of them, but I do think I'm one of those people that likes to know the basics behind the stuff that I'm using. I don't want to use a bunch of flashy stuff and a bunch of flashy effects and presets if I don't know how they actually work and if I couldn't make them myself. I don't always like to whip up my own personal effects, but sometimes it's easier for something like this just to come in and knock it out versus digging through Envato. That's what I personally use, to come and find, you know, a specific one that I like or that I want to use. Right here, it's like I know what I want, I know how to make it, so I'm just gonna knock it out real quick. All right, guys, the outro is going to have to take place right here instead because I forgot to record one before I moved my camera. But I had a lot of fun putting this one together for you guys. This was really fun to make, and I hope that you guys can apply this knowledge to a lot of projects moving forward. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I really, really appreciate the support. Always remember that you are very blessed and very loved. I'm signing off for today. You guys take care, and as always, I'll be back soon.